So I would like to extend my very warm welcome to everyone who have joined the Mobile Device Manager Plus training session today. So let me introduce myself. I'm Abraham Vedamani. I'm a product specialist working with ManageEngine for the past 6 years, and I'll be doing the training session for you guys today. So before we start, let's take a quick look at the training schedule. So this is a 3-week training program designed to help you understand and know more about the mobile device management solution. So the past week we had a session on the device onboarding and provisioning, where we saw about how to enroll devices into the solution. And this week currently we have a session on the app management and device security. And on the next week we have a session on how to utilize the modern management capabilities for your Windows 10, 11 and Mac laptops. So if you'd like to view the recording of the previous session or would like to enroll yourself for the future sessions, just click on the link below and you could register yourself for our training schedule. So let's take a quick look at the training agenda that we have for today. So we'll start with the overview of the Mobile Device Manager Plus solution, and then we would discuss the complete app lifecycle management. And so in the overview of mobile device management, we would start with a gentle introduction of what the product is about. And then we will discuss on the MDM architecture and what components are on it and what ports needs to be open for efficient management of devices and how to manage your devices under the Mobile Device Manager Plus solution. And we'll also look into the complete app cycle management for your devices, starting from installing or uninstalling or even updating the apps on the managed devices. And we also see how we could test and deploy the enterprise applications to your mobile devices. And then we can look into securing your data and on the devices as well by blocking certain applications and web content from being accessed on your devices or locking down your devices to specific applications so that the user won't be able to use anything else. And we will also look into how we could troubleshoot the devices remotely using the remote control functionality available and how you could schedule OS updates for your devices as well. And finally, we'll also look into how to restrict a device to a specific geolocation using the geofencing feature. And then we'll also look into how to secure devices that have been compromised and lock them down. And we'll also wind up with a few scenarios and how you can resolve them using the Mobile Device Manager Plus solution. So let's start with the overview of the Mobile Device Manager solution. So we do support the operating systems like iOS, Android, Windows, and Chromebook OS as well. So with Apple devices, we do support iOS, iPadOS, Mac, and as well as tvOS. And for Android, we do support mobile devices and tablets. And for Windows, we support even mobile devices, tablets, phones, and desktops as well. And we are the only few of the mobile device management solutions that still extend our support to Chrome OS management. So our solution is available as a part of the Endpoint Central solution, which is a master suite which can manage Windows, Mac, Linux, and on top of that, could manage your iOS, Android, and Chromebook devices as well. So then Endpoint Central is available on-premise as well as on the cloud. And if you're just looking to have the mobile device management alone, we do offer a standalone solution, which is also available on-premise as well as on the cloud. But let's say if you're an MSP providing our solution as a service to your customers, you could utilize the MSP edition of the Mobile Device Manager Plus, and that too is available on-premise as well as on the cloud. And our solution comes with ready out-of-the-box integrations for multiple service desk applications. So the ManageEngine Service Desk Plus right here is one of our in-house service desk application that we do offer. And we do also offer integration with third-party service desk applications as well. And also we integrate with our own Zoho CRM platform, Zoho One sort of applications, and also Zoho Creator, through which you could create your own apps and then publish them to your devices as well. And if you're looking to integrate with any other application through API, we do have made our API documentations public, which you can view on the link below. So let's take a quick look at the console and what it comprises of. So this is the Mobile Device Manager Plus console. And on the home page, you'll be able to get a bird's eye view of all the devices and every configuration that you could have done from your mobile device manager solution. So for example, you could check all the enrolled devices in the solution, how many devices you have enrolled, the users on them, and the number of enrollments that could be pending. And also you could get a list of every app on the devices and the device split based on platform and much more information. And once you gain access to the mobile device manager solution, the first thing that you would have to do is to onboard your devices into the solution, for which you could use the enrollment module over here. And we do offer both BYOD and corporate device management. So you could find all the BYOD enrollment methods right here. And if you're looking to get full device control, you could manage your devices using any one of these methods available on the left panel to get corporate control over your devices. And then moving on, after successful enrollment, you could utilize the features under device management, like grouping the devices over here and creating some basic security profiles for your devices using the profile section, or distributing apps using the app repository, or distributing certificates, documents, or even updating app and OS updates and pushing out some custom notifications or remote controlling devices, and even restricting the devices to a specific location using the geofencing feature. And on top of that, under the inventory module, you also get features like tracking the device locations in real time under the location data. And you could also go into the individual devices that you manage under the inventory and click on any device name to get more information on it, like the device details, battery percentage, apps installed, certificates, or the restrictions applied on this. And you also get a couple of live actions to lock the device down or wipe it out, or even changing passcode. So all these will be available under the inventory module. And on top of that, with the report section, with all this cumulative data that you fetch from your managed devices, you could get some predefined reports for app-based reports, hardware component-based reports, or inactivity-based reports, location-based, security-based to check whether any of your devices have been rooted or jailbroken. All those information can be fetched via these reports. And if you want a specific report to be sent out to you regularly, you could schedule those specific reports as well to be sent out to your email on a regular frequency. And finally, the admin tab of the mobile device management is where you'll be able to make server-based configurations or user-based configurations. For example, the user administration right here allows you to create user logins for the MDM console through which your users will be able to log in and manage their respective devices. And you could also customize the console with the company detail option, or you could also do some basic configurations on the device privacy, server privacy, or server security settings as well. And this is where you'll be able to leverage the integrations that are available with the mobile device manager. And finally, we also have the support tab. So let's say if you want to get in touch with our support team, we do offer a 24/5 call and live chat support available. And we also do offer an option to send us email tickets as well through the create support file, through which you could automatically upload the logs from your server as well as the mobile devices managed. All right, so this is the overview of the mobile device management console. So let's take a quick look at the architecture of the product. So the mobile device manager plus solution architecture comprises of three main elements: the server, the devices that are managed, and the notification services. So the server right here is the mobile device management server. And if you would like to integrate your Active Directory to fetch the user information, you could have that integration in place to automatically fetch the user data from your existing directory services. And the next component here is the secure gateway component. So let's say if you're hosting your own mobile device management server, you could set up this secure gateway as an intermediary between your network and the internet. That way, any device that tries to get in touch with your server will have to go through the secure gateway server. So the main reason for using a secure gateway server is to expose the secure gateway server instead of the main one. That way you could protect the identity of where you have hosted your server. So whenever any kind of configuration is pushed from your mobile device management server, it first goes to the notification servers out there. So for Apple, the notification server is the Apple push notification service. And for Android, it's a Firebase cloud messaging. And for Windows, it is the Windows notification service. So let's say if you're pushing an app or a profile or locking a device, anything that you do from MDM console, first prompts the notification servers. And then these notification servers will ping your devices to wake up. And that wake up call will prompt the devices to contact your server in turn. So when your devices contact the server, they will then dispose the configurations they have for those specific devices. So for any effective communication to go through, the server should be able to contact the notification service, and the notification service should be able to contact your devices in turn. So that facilitates the communication between your devices and the server. And these are the ports that are used by the Mobile Device Management Plus solution. So from a device to contact the mobile device management server, this 9383 port is used. And for the mobile device management server to contact the notification services, 443 port is used. And for the notification services to reach your mobile devices, these specific ports are to be open. And there are many more ports which corresponds to specific features in MDM. So if you'd like to know about the entire list of ports, you could just check out the link right here below to know about all the ports that are involved in the Mobile Device Management Plus solution. So how does MDM actually manage your devices? So when it comes to Android devices, it is going to be an ManageEngine application that manages your devices. But for iOS or Windows or Chrome devices, they have their own native client. So all that you have to do is to install a management profile on these devices, and that would be enough to manage those devices into the MDM solution. So let's dive into the topic for today, which is the app management. And first, we'll start by discussing how you could install and manage business applications on the Mobile Device Manager Plus solution. So this is the basic architecture under which the Mobile Device Manager's app management works. So whenever you want to make a purchase or for an application, all you have to do is to use the respective stores. So for Apple, it is the Apple Store. For Windows, it is the Windows Business Store. And for Google, it is the Google Play Store. So whenever you want to add applications, you could simply integrate those accounts with the MDM server, purchase the necessary applications directly from the respective stores. But let's say if you have your own application that you have developed in-house and it is not available in any of these stores, you could simply upload them into the MDM server in the form of an enterprise application. And all these applications, once added to the MDM server, can be distributed to your devices in the form of an app installation command. And once the installation is initiated, let's say if the application is from the Play Store or App Store or Windows Business Store, your devices will in turn contact the respective stores to download the necessary applications directly from there. But let's say if it's an app that you have developed yourself and hosted as an enterprise app, in that case, your devices will contact the MDM server to collect the APK to get those applications installed on the devices. So now let's take a quick look on how this is configured on the console. So you have to go to the device management console for this and open up the app repository. And in the app repository, you could click on Add App and either choose Apple Store or Play Store here to add the application. So in this example, I'll just type in a specific application name like Teams, for example. And let's say if I want the Teams, and once the application shows up on the list right here, I can click on it and then click Next. And here you could configure some basic app policies, like to remove the application when you remove the device from the MDM management, and also to restrict the backup of the app data from these applications to the iTunes or iCloud account, so that you can restrict your users from taking a backup of any corporate data that could be in the app data. And finally, if you want to customize this application to your organization, you could frame an app config data in the form of an XML and include all the personalized information for your organization and upload that right here so that this app will be pre-customized for the end user to use on their devices. And once done, you can just hit save, and this app will now be a part of your app repository. So now to push these apps to your devices, you could simply go to your groups and devices section where every individual device will be listed here. So you can either pick a device yourself and click on action to distribute the apps, or you could create a group for all your Apple devices like I've done here. Select that group, click on action, and click on distribute apps. And once the list of apps in your repository pops up, you could then filter it down to Apple applications and pick a few applications that you want to install and choose distribute to app catalog and then hit distribute. And once you do this, these applications will be available on the end user's devices inside the app catalog, which can be accessed from the mobile device management application. So the apps that are listed under the app catalog, the user could just click on the install button, sign in into their iTunes account, and once done, the app will start installing on their respective devices. And once it's installed, the user can access these apps on their devices. So in the case of a manual installation like this, every user must be provisioned with an iTunes account on their devices. So every user and every device that you manage should have an account signed in. And the user have to intervene to make this app installation possible, since we are just distributing the app to the app catalog, and it's the user who needs to perform the app installation. But let's say if you would prefer to install these apps silently rather than depending on the user to do the installation, in that case, you could opt for the silent app installation method. So in order to utilize a silent app installation, you will require either the Apple Business Manager account for iOS devices or the managed Google Play for the Android devices. So there are prerequisites which are required for you to be doing silent installations. So the first thing is that you need an account with Apple Business Manager for Apple devices and a managed Google account for Android devices. And for Apple, the device that you're distributing the app to must be supervised. So by supervised, I'm meaning that the device should be managed either through the Apple Business Manager or through the Apple Configurator method. And for Android, the devices must be running on Android 5.0 or later versions to be able to silently install apps on them. So this is the architecture on how the silent app installation works. The first step is that you integrate your mobile device manager server with the respective app portals like Apple Business Manager or the managed Google Play. And once you have these portals integrated, the next step is to purchase the applications from the respective portals, and those applications will be synced with your MDM server app repository. And after that process, this application needs to be distributed to the respective devices, and the devices will have the applications installed on them automatically. So for the Apple Business Manager integration, you first have to log into your Business Manager account, and then you have to create a token for your app repository. And once you download the token, you then have to go back to your mobile device management console and click on app repository. And this is where you'll be able to integrate with the respective accounts, the Apple App Management for Apple and managed Google Play for Android. So here you have to then click on configure apps for business and upload the token that you just downloaded from your Apple Business Manager, and then hit upload, which will complete the integration process. Once that's done, you could just go to the apps and books section right here, where you can search for any application that you require and then purchase the application and mention the number of applications that you want. And once you have those applications added, you could then go to the app repository and perform a sync with your Apple Business Manager. And once the sync is done, any app that you purchased under the Business Manager will automatically be listed on the app repository. And once the silent apps are added, you can then go to your groups and devices as usual, select the group, click on action, click on distribute apps, and then pick the applications that you just added and choose silent installation this time, since you want them to be silently installed. And once you hit distribute, these apps would automatically appear on the screen of the device and will be installed successfully. So this method doesn't require an Apple ID to be on the device or doesn't require the user to intervene to make the installation happen, since it's totally automatic. So the recommendation is that the device should be connected to a Wi-Fi network whenever you push out large applications, since it could eat into the device cellular bandwidth. So now, how to silently install apps for your Android devices. So similar to Apple Business Manager for Apple devices, you have the managed Google Play account for your Android devices. But creating a managed Google Play account is pretty simple. All you need is a Gmail account. If you have one, you could simply go to the managed Google Play option under the console over here and just choose sign in. And once you sign in, we will ask you for a Google account, which will then redirect you to this specific page. And there you just need to click on get started, put in the business name, and put in the data protection information if you are from EU. And if you don't fall under the category of EU, you can simply skip this step. And finally, you can complete the registration. And once done, you could then go to your app repository. And once the account is added, this is how your managed Google Play page will look like. It will have the account signed in and also the applications that you have purchased. So once the account is successfully integrated, just go back to the app section, click on add app and choose Play Store app. And we will open the managed Google Play UI right on top of the screen. So here you can go ahead and search for the applications that you want and approve the application, followed by a save and sync. So doing this will add this application to your app repository automatically. And once the app's added, you can go to the groups and devices section again, pick your target, click on action, distribute apps, and choose the apps again from the repository to push them out to your devices, choosing silent installation. And once you do, these apps could be automatically installed on the devices and the user will not have to intervene the process at all. So how can you control the app updates? So now that you have seen how we could successfully push the apps and install them on the devices, how we can continue to keep updating these applications regularly. So in order to do this, you can utilize the automatic app update option available in our mobile device management solution. So let's first discuss why should you control the app update on the devices. So in specific cases, the updated version may be coming with a patch which could fix some serious security issues that could already exist on these applications. And the updated versions could also be fixes for issues that could be affecting your productivity on the current version. So it's best to always control the app updates when it comes to managing application on the devices. So the prerequisite for you to be automatically updating this app is that the app should be purchased through an Apple Business Manager account and should be device assignable. So let's take a look on how we can configure the automatic app update policy. To do that, you can just go to the app repository right here. And for the applications that you have added here, you want to update them automatically. You just have to create a policy on the next option, which is the app update policy. So here you can click on a new policy and choose which devices you want to push, which applications you want to update the apps for. All the applications are specific applications and whether to install them automatically or manually by distributing them yourself. And then you could choose whether to install them immediately once they are made available or only install them in a scheduled window. For example, it could be on a weekend only basis, and you can also choose which time of the day these installations are supposed to start and end. So once you set this policy up and hit save, we will distribute the app updates to the devices based on the set schedule. So the next question is how to manage enterprise applications. So for applications that you develop yourself in-house, do you need an account with Apple Business Manager or managed Google Play? Not at all. So for the enterprise applications, you could add them manually to the mobile device management portal and distribute them directly from there. So this doesn't require an Apple Business Manager or a managed Google Play account. So can we test the apps before deployment? So since these are apps that you developed yourself, you might want to test these apps on a couple test devices before pushing it out to your entire managed fleet. So yes, we do offer an option to test the new versions on a couple devices before you mass distribute it to all your devices. So the prerequisites for the automatic app update is that it should be supervised for iOS devices. And for Android, the device must either be Samsung, or if it's from any other vendor, it needs to be provisioned as a device owner. So now let's take a look on how you could manage your custom applications. So to do that, we can go to the app repository again. So we saw how we could add the store applications. So now we are going to look into adding enterprise apps that you developed yourself. So to do this, just go to the app section and click on enterprise app and choose self-hosted app option to upload the APK. And once you choose that option, here we will ask you to drag and drop the installer file that you have. So you could just open up your file location where you have it, select the application, and upload the package manually to your app portal. And once you have the application added, you could then just filter the application list right here to see which applications you have. And once the application shows up, you can just click on the application name. And here, as you can see, if you want to add a new version of the app that you've already added, you could just click on add new version, upload that APK file right here, and add that as multiple versions for the same app. So once you have multiple versions for the same app, let's say if this is the new version and you want to test it on a few devices, you could just click on that version name and distribute this specific version to a couple of test devices. So in this case, I'll create a group called test and I will distribute the apps to that specific group to test whether the application works perfectly. And once that is confirmed, I could then mark that specific version as the stable one. And once I mark it as the stable version, I could then distribute that to all my devices in my managed fleet. So this way, you can have multiple versions of the same application that you develop, push out the latest beta version to a couple of test devices, see how it works, and then mass distribute that to your entire fleet. And how can you prevent your users from installing malicious apps on the devices? So firstly, you can approach this in two different ways. So the first case, let's say, if you don't want your users to be installing anything at all on the devices unless you approve that from the mobile device manager. In that case, you could simply go to the profile section under the device management section and create a restriction profile for your devices where you could mandate that the user should not be able to installing their own apps. So in order to do this, go to the profile section, click on restrictions, and here configure a restriction where you can mandate that the user should not be able to install their own apps or uninstall the apps that you push from the MDM solution. So this is the best way to ensure that the user doesn't get to install anything unless it was approved from the mobile device management portal. But let's say if you don't want to do this, you want them to be able to install anything they want, you just want to restrict certain applications that could be harmful. In that case, you could go to the inventory section of the portal, and here we have the apps section where every application that is installed on the devices will be listed. So if you want to block any specific applications, you could just click on search for the application right here. And once you select that application, you could then block list that app. You could either choose it to be blocklisted for every device that you manage or for a specific group of devices that you manage. And once you blocklist it, the user will not be able to use that application at all, because you can trigger an automatic uninstallation to be done immediately if any of those applications are being detected on your managed devices. And how can you prevent users from accessing malicious websites on the devices? So in order to enforce this, you can utilize a profile called the web content filtering. So by creating a web content filter, you can either allow your users to be accessing specific websites alone, or you could block them from accessing specific websites. To do this, you have to create a profile again. And inside the profile, you could go straight to the web content filter. So in the web content filter, you can either create a allow list or a block list. So in the allow list, you could either mention the websites manually yourself, or if you have a bulk list of websites, you can create that as a CSV file and upload that right here. And only the websites on the list will be allowed to be accessed, and everything else will be hidden. But let's say if you want to block a couple of websites and allow everything else, you could create a block list and upload that. On top of this, we also do offer a generic list of websites that could prove to be harmful or malicious, and those websites can be blocked on top of that. So once done, you could hit save and hit publish, and then associate this profile to your devices. To do that, go to the groups and devices section, click the device group name and associate profile, and then pick the profile that you created, and any restriction that you had configured will be applied to the devices right away. So how can you allow only specific application to be used on the devices? So for this specific requirement, you can utilize the profiles again, but this time you're going to use the kiosk profile. So with the kiosk profile, you would be able to mandate which specific applications needs to be accessed from the devices. So far what we have seen, we have restricted the device from installing or uninstalling their own applications. So that pretty much doesn't allow the user to add any application on top of what you have approved. But still, the user could have access to the default apps that comes pre-built into the devices. So if you want to give them limited access to a specific application or to a bunch of applications only, you could use the kiosk mode for that. So in this case, if you want them to access only one application and not anything else, and just have that application open on the screen all the time, you could use the single app kiosk mode for that. But let's say if you just want to add a couple of applications and give them access to all that, but just hide the rest of them. In that case, you could use the multi-app kiosk mode, where you could just pick a few applications and only those applications will be available on the home screen. And on top of this, you could also apply some basic device restrictions as well, from status bar expansion or device control restriction, and setting up default volume levels for specific features. All that could be configured, and you could also set up a custom settings app. So let's say if you're not giving access to the settings applications on a device, but still want to give access to the user to specific features alone, you could create a custom settings applications where you can give them access to something vital like the Wi-Fi configuration, or to add a new Wi-Fi network, flashlight, brightness control, mobile network configuration, Bluetooth configuration. So only the selected settings options will be available for the user. And finally, you can also customize the screen layout, where you could choose how the icons should be listed, in what order should the applications be listed, and what applications should be available on the dock and which should be on the home screen. So all these customizations can be done right from the profile section. And once you configure this, we can publish the profile, distribute that to your devices as usual. And this is how it would look like on the device itself. So for a single app kiosk, the application that you selected would be open all the time. And for a multi-app kiosk, the listed applications will be on the home screen. And you can also customize the screen with the wallpaper on the kiosk configuration itself. So the user will only have access to the listed applications and not anything else. So how you could remotely troubleshoot devices using remote control. So we have this remote control functionality available under the device management section. So from here, you could remotely control the screen of the devices with just a click. So the prerequisites for the remote control is that the device needs to be enrolled as a corporate device, that is as a device owner. And for Apple devices, we only do support remote view since Apple themselves do not support control for iOS devices as of now. So for Android, if the device was enrolled as a full device management or the device owner, you'd be able to remotely control the screen right from the console. So what do you usually do if there are issues on any corporate device or the devices in organization with the field agents, or the field agents are not technically adept to fix issues on their own? So that is where the remote control tool comes in, and you could use it to manage your devices remotely. And how can you restrict your devices from leaving a specific geographical area? In order to make this restriction possible, you have something called the geofencing. So with the geofencing, you'll be able to restrict the users to be inside a specific location. So the first step of configuring the geofencing is to create the fence area, for which I'll go to the fence repository option and create a fence first. And here, I'll simply search for any location like I normally do in a Google search. So I'm just searching for an organization's address. And once the area is mapped in, I can then create a perimeter around the office. So let's say if the device is supposed to only operate in this 500-meter radius, I'll create that fence, name it with the office, and then create the fence right away. And once this fence is created, I could then go to my fence policy and create a policy where I can mandate that if the device is not within the fence that I created, you could immediately notify certain email addresses about it. So here you can probably mention your security team email and the admin team as well, and customize the content to state that this device is leaving this facility, and you could alert them about it. But let's say you also want to actively lock the device down if they try to take it out. In that case, you could choose the action to lock the device down using the lost mode. So with the lost mode, you get to customize the content, like do not take the device outside, something like that. And you could also put in your contact number so that if they could retrieve the device, they'd be able to call you by clicking on the call button on the screen. And on top of that, you could also alert the user by ringing an alarm on the concerned device to notify that they are taking the device outside. So this way, you can alert the users with a custom message to let them know that this device is not supposed to be operating outside this area. But let's say if a user still chooses to take it outside and doesn't return the device to the specified location. In that case, there could be a danger of losing sensitive information that could be a part of the device. So in order to prevent that from happening, you could set up an automatic schedule to automatically wipe out the entire device as well as the SD card on it in case the device is not being returned to the organization level. So once you create this policy, we will keep on checking the location of each and every device that you manage to see if they are leaving the determined fence. And if they do, we will activate these actions sequentially. So now let's take a look into automating the OS updates. So with the mobile device management solution, you have the option to update the OS versions on your devices remotely. So there is a few disadvantages of running outdated OS versions on the devices, like missing out on latest security patches, which could leave your devices to be vulnerable, or the older OS versions mostly tend to get slower with time, so that you could lose productivity if you're on older versions. So the best solution to avoid these problems is to schedule and automate OS updates using the mobile device management solution. So the advantages are that it's simply a one-time setup, and that will take care of updating the OS from time to time. And you could also choose for immediate deployment or delayed deployment, or even a windowed deployment, where you can mandate that the deployment could happen anywhere between the Friday or Saturday in the third or fourth week of the month. You can configure something like that. And you also get to choose to notify the users about the updates happening. And the users also could have the option to skip updates in case they don't want the device to be rebooting right then. So let's see how we can configure this on the console. So for the automatic OS update, it's available under the device management section. Just click on automate OS updates over here and create a policy. And in the policy, you can mention whether you want to immediately push the updates once they are available, or delay the update by a couple of days from the release date. And once that's configured, the next thing to choose is whether to schedule the update or not. So if you want the update to happen anytime throughout the week, you could just select all the weeks and all the days, and we will install the patches anytime they are made available. But let's say if you just want them to be installed in a window time frame, for example, something like the last week of every month, and that during the weekends alone. So in that case, I'll select a policy like this for the last weekend. And let's say if I want it to happen only after 4 in the evening, I'll also set that time over here, so that my automatic patch policy will specifically install the patches on the last weekend, especially in the evening hours only. And if I want to notify my users about the updates, I'll simply enable this option. And this allows me to notify the users about the updates happening on the devices. So similarly, you could create a policy, associate that to your devices, and that will automate the OS updates for those specified devices. But let's say if any of your devices were lost or were compromised, how to secure the devices itself and the data on these devices. So this can be configured from your lost mode option available on your mobile device manager. So for this, you can just go to the inventory section of the console and look for the device which you just lost contact with. So let's say if this is the device that needs to be locked down, you could just click on the device name that is in the concerned one, and then click on actions button on the right side and click on enable lost mode. So this will allow you to manually configure the lost mode on the devices. So as usual, you can mention that number to be called and the customized data that should be shown on the screen, like return the device to this address and put in something like that. And you could put in a contact number that it can be customized as well. But let's say, and this is how the device would look like when you enable the lost mode, and the user won't be able to exit this mode or access anything else on the device. But let's say if the device is still not retrieved and you want to make sure that the data on the device is wiped out to ensure the user doesn't get their hands on it. In that case, you could click on action, click on deprovision, and choose the factory reset method. So the factory reset method will ensure that the device is reset and all data on the device is essentially wiped out. So let's look into a few scenarios and how you can resolve them using the mobile device management solution. So how can we prevent users from uninstalling corporate apps from the devices? So this is the same scenario that we discussed earlier. So in order to enforce this, you could just create a profile for Android or iOS in this case. and then configure the restriction option, specifically application, to not allow the user from uninstalling apps on their devices. And this would prevent them from uninstalling anything that they have pushed out from the MDM console. And the same goes for installing as well. You can restrict them from installing applications on their devices themselves. So the scenario two is that a user have reset their devices and left the organization. So upon reactivating the device, you could be prompted to put in the user credentials to log into the device again. So how could MDM help you avoid this or fix this issue? So firstly, you could configure a restriction which makes sure that you're not put in such a situation. So that is the restriction to not allow the user from adding personal accounts to their devices. So by restricting this specific option, you can ensure that the users on the devices will not be able to log in using their personal account onto the devices that are managed. But let's say if you want them to log in, but still want to have an option to sign into the devices if they do not log out when they return the device. In that case, you can utilize the option called the EFRP. So the EFRP stands for Enterprise Factory Reset Protection. So with this option right here, you can add a backup account to the existing device so that the email address that you put in right here and the account ID that you mentioned can be used as an alternative account to retrieve the device in case it gets locked out. So this way you can still allow your users to log in using their personal accounts, and even if they return the device without logging out, you still have this backup account through which you can retrieve the device again. So how we could prevent the users from turning off location on their Android devices. So this also falls under the restriction. So under the restriction, you have this configuration called the location settings, under which you could just have the location services to be always turned on so that the user on their devices will not be able to turn it off themselves. So this is a sure way to enforce the location on the devices and make sure that you have visibility over every device location utilizing the mobile device management location service feature. So we've come to the end of the session, but before that, if you have any specific questions, we'd like to discuss that as well. So let me take a quick look at the question and answers that we have over here. So that's a question about the demo portal. So we do offer a demo portal, of course, where you can simply access that with demo.mobiledevicemanagerplus.com, where you can just check how the console works and as well. And there's a question regarding the geo-fencing. So yes, with the geo-fencing, you would be able to mention that the devices should be accessible in a specific location, or you can also mention that the devices should not be accessible in a specific location. For example, let's say if you want your users to not access the device when they are inside your office location, but you want them to access it outside due to privacy reasons inside the location, you could have a policy that mentions that the devices needs to be locked only when they are inside the geofence. So it works both ways. All right, so I guess that's the end of the question and answer session. And we have come to the end of the webinar today. So I believe the session was very informative. So please do feel free to rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is the best rating. And please do spread the word about a mobile device management solution on all social platforms. We have mentioned our social handle over here. So please do feel free to spread a word about us. And we have the next training schedule on 26th March on the modern management of your Windows and Mac devices. So please make sure to tune in at 11:30 EDT. Thank you guys so much for your time on the webinar today and making time in your precious schedule. Thank you so much for your time and have a great day.